Swiggity swordie, let's get that booty.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Slim Cogcast. It is our Slim Cognito, and first thing I want to tell you is Loki is better, probably the best Marvel show out thus far. It subverted expectations from the start to the finish of this entire show. I expected it to end on some sappy, oh, this is so sweet stuff, and then boom. Okay, all right, let's have the spoiler talk right now. You know what I mean? Because we got to talk about Loki, and I might remember the timestamp, but there's no promises. But let's get this shit out of the way. Okay, so anyway, Loki set it all up to go for the TVA and multiversal, the multiversal war that people should know about, from the comics. And if anybody knows about Reed Richards' children and what they were capable of in alternate timelines and in different time periods, they would know what's coming up. But we're not here to go down all of those roads. This is not this ain't exactly the comic-centric channel. There's many other channels out there that you can find this. What we're here to discuss is what's happening in that moment and the feeling it, invoked. Now the whole point that I see with Loki is once it started, it felt like it gave me the sense of a Men in Black type feel, you know what I mean? The way everything was unfolding and showing us a world that we thought we were familiar with, but there's more beyond it. And I really did love that feeling. And as every episode went further, it got deeper and much better because of the people within that. They didn't just spend time looking at what the TVA was doing all over the place. They didn't waste time with that. They just went straight to the people that are in the TVA. And plus, the TVA is not so interesting that we need an entire show about it, per se. I mean, they could, but it's better off with the choice that they made now because they ended up introducing it to us. We know how it works, and then on to the next thing. Trying to find this variant of Loki. This variant of Loki turned out to be a woman, and they combined the character Sylvie with what was it? Female Loki. When there was a comic run where where Loki's gender was changed. Now they put these two characters together, which is very good because Sylvie, by all means, was a villain back in the day in the comics, but she wasn't like a great grand character and certainly not worth being a main role in an MCU production. So it's smart for them to combine those two characters, and it works super good. Then everything was going, as things went on, we ended up getting stuff like it seemed like they were falling in love, and then it was very fitting in concept, I guess you could say, because if there's anybody so full of vanity and self-righteousness and self-infatuation, it would be Loki, so to speak, on the surface, you know what I mean? And who else would fall in love with themselves but Loki, you know what I mean? So it kept getting even better because it was well written in the way it unfolded. It was in ways that you didn't expect. It was like a journey to get to know oneself, which was us exploring, Loki, finding out who he is, deep down, and falling in love and appreciating oneself. All is like in the same aspect. Loki came to accept who he was instead of being caught in the loop of trying to please his father and, gain the throne. And in that same instance, learned how to become better than his previous self and become selfless and care about someone else. It was very poetic. And they were both trying to learn that lesson, but people don't change overnight. And by the end, of course, they didn't change to completely different characters toward the end. The only person who truly did change was the one who went through the most conflict with his current character. And that was our Loki from our timeline. And it was super fucking good. I enjoyed every minute of that show. And the back and forward banter, the differences between Loki and Sylvie, it was great because it made the similarities all the more precious. It was amazing. Now, here's me gushing, so let's move on to the next thing. Now, the thing about Loki is we've seen him be this badass villain. He's done cool shit since Avengers and Thor and etc. But the thing is, when we've watched every Thor movie has been like the poster child, the favorite kid with favoritism and soft treatment. You know what I mean? Like, all Thor had to do to be worthy of his hammer again was go to Earth and learn how to be humble. Meanwhile, Loki, who was also taught that the throne was for him by Odin himself, he worked hard to learn how to use magic from his mother. He was taught magic from his mother. He was not gifted with powers of a god from birth because he was a frost giant. Okay, boom. He went through all of that hard work. Then he got to know people. He know people in their rawest form. He understands humanity. Therefore, he's not stuck up his own ass like Thor is with this unrealistic set of morals, you know what I mean, and standards that Thor ultimately repeatedly imposes upon himself and people around him just to keep learning that no one can live up to it. I mean, just look at all the Thor movies, and it's Thor learning that you need to get your ass kicked so that you can do better. And it's also a story about Odin learning that he screwed his kids up, man. I mean, he trained Hela to be a conqueror and to go around and learn how to slaughter thousands and conquer places and become a warrior. And then he locked her up because she grew up and became a warrior and a conqueror. He raised both of his sons to believe that the throne is for them, yet the throne is only for one person. And he was like, yes, you're both born to be kings, but the throne is only for one person. What do you think the result of that is going to be? Sibling rivalry to the death. They could never get along because of it. And now here you are with, to be frank, the Queen of Asgard, best character in there, to be honest with you. Because she was real about it. She was the only one that was keeping Odin in check because he was an idiot. She was keeping Thor in check because he was an idiot. And she did everything she could for poor little Loki to keep him in check. The woman was so wise and so sweet and perfectly acted. Good job. You gotta give them their flowers. Her funeral was one of the best moments in Marvel Cinematic history. Now, to get to the point, Loki has gone through and played the role of Loki just as he should in Norse mythology, which is he's supposed to be the seed of chaos and the catalyst for change. He's supposed to be the one that brings about Ragnarok so that the new world could be born again and start over. But repeatedly, they question free will and predetermined destiny throughout this narrative, which is very smart to do so because they're also discussing alternate realities. And, you know, string theory and alternate realities are always interesting with these related topics, which is, are our futures predetermined, or do we make our own futures, basically? And this is a question, a philosophical question that's as old as time. I don't know the people, the dates, and the numbers in the books, but I will tell you that it is an old and rather very familiar concept, which I love. I actually enjoy it, and it was, you know, it was implemented very well in this show. So the thing about Loki that I appreciated the most was that they weren't afraid to do things differently and yet still ground themselves in the MCU. There's been many Easter eggs. I'm sure you've all seen them with Frog Thor in the jar as they were panning underground. There was the Thanos copter from the old comics where Thanos was riding in a helicopter for God knows why, and you know, I mean, spaceships from different that we've seen in Guardians of the Galaxy and etc. And it's just a good solid MCU production. And they even gave us the other Loki variants from other comic runs, like President Loki, the time that he became the president, and Boastful Loki. We got to see the classic Loki from the comic books with the big crazy yellow horns just protruding from the front of his forehead. We got a chance to see Kid Loki, which what made him a variant was the fact that he killed Thor at such a young age. And as he was getting, it's like as our Loki was interacting with these other ones, he had to look at himself and with more clarity, which helped him realize the type of person he was by the time he met back up with Sylvie, because boastful Loki and classic Loki and Kid Loki sitting upon themselves, just talking and reminiscing about the small achievements that they've done beforehand. He got the chance to see that after you win and conquer, there's nothing else. The only true prize from winning any battle is if you bring peace or some type of joy to others around you and prospering people as a whole. Because if you achieve something just for yourself to say that you did it, oh, I did that thing, but why? For what? For who? And I guess that's the turning point that made him believe that he had to cling to the first time he ever felt like he was in love. And that's what made him want to run towards Sylvie. I really did enjoy that show, and it was well written. There's a lot of nuance to it when it comes to each character and what they're learning. A lot of people will miss the forest for the trees, but ultimately, when Marvel writes their characters, especially in the cinematic universe, they make that character go through an experience and a roller coaster, and you have to try to fill the blanks of what's going on in the head of that character as they're experiencing this scene. And I like that. So yeah, Loki was a 10 out of 10 for me. I say it's better than WandaVision. WandaVision was super good though, but I'd say WandaVision was maybe number 2, and sadly Winter Soldier would have to sit at number 3 based off the fact that people for some reason love, I guess the population, I don't know, man. I guess seeing men working through their own mental anguish is not really desirable, and it makes them look vulnerable and weak, I guess. I don't know why people don't like it, okay? I'm trying to make excuses for them. I don't know why they don't like it. I love Falcon and Winter Soldier, and it was great. It was a great story that hardly ever gets told. But let's not go back down that road. Now, here's the thing. I've been watching Rick and Morty, and that show has been amazing as well. In theory, I believe that they're setting up some things like they're taking all the little things from previous seasons episodes that had cliffhangers or open ends, and instead of tying those loose ends, they're just weaving them back into the later parts of the plot in this current season. There's a lot of speculation and theories, especially Matt Pat over there at Film Theory, thinking that we're watching the making of Evil Morty or something like that. But I don't know. I say he might be a little bit off. He might be just a little bit off. I think that we're witnessing. Actually, I can't say, but I can't wait to see what happens though. I'm following closely. If we're not looking at an alternate Morty that becomes Evil Morty, then maybe we've already seen the creation of Evil Morty and we're looking at somebody else. But anyway, yeah, Rick and Morty's pretty fucking good so far. And they're at that point. There's like kinda in the middle of the season, where they have to fill it up with just some crazy Zuki zany shit, you know what I mean? Some random thoughts that pass by in the writing room type stuff that I'm enjoying. So yeah, it's and the fact that they made a huge giant superhuman space incest baby, that's on par for that's something on par for Rick and Morty. Anywho's next, I've been playing. If y'all been watching the stream, I appreciate all of y'all. Thanking y'all for stopping by. We've been climbing up in the followers, and we're actually about to go over. Yeah, we're about to hit 80. So yeah, it's going good. And everybody stopped by. We've been playing Deus Ex for the past week, and Deus Ex is a great game. I gotta say, bro. I can't even lie. I can't cap. That game is so good. It is so good. And right after playing I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, it fits perfectly. Like, not on the on the conspiratorial stuff, like that's a whole separate thing, but on the topic of humanity and philosophical and purpose, finding purpose to exist and etc. In a world full of technological advancements and the danger of AI, like, even though that was a small part of it, those two narratives for some reason they link together. If you look for it hard enough, I guess you could say, because now the more I think about it, it's not exactly that relevant. The most that it was relevant that made me think about it, and we had a very good discussion about it in the chat, was when I found a AI called Morpheus in one of the members of the Illuminati's secret rooms. And it was an AI that he created that was supposed to be like, basically sentient, but I feel like he probably chose not to. He was possibly planning on releasing Morpheus to replace Daedalus, but that's just my assumption. I've only played through the game once, and it's a lot of detail and information to take in as you play it, so some things will become a blur. But I really did enjoy how much the extent that the writers went through in order to make the game as coherent as possible. You know what I mean? Meaning, I take it as if it was just like, it's still sci-fi, so it's still fiction, you know, in my opinion. And when you write those types of narratives that feel so parallel with real life, it can spark some very good conversation and be a very good head scratcher, and I appreciate it for that. And I think that's the intention that Ion Storm had when they first made it. It was supposed to be a turn of the century game. It was like a landmark of what future games can be, and soon to be the standard, hopefully. Because that game's design, I swear, I haven't seen, there's only 2 games in my life that I could choose to say that they've gone to the extent that Iron Storm did in Deus Ex in terms of player choice and player agency. Because there are things that can change the outcome of the game that they don't even tell you. It's just if you made that choice and did it in the gameplay. Like, there's one scene where your brother, his house is about to be raided, and he tells you to go ahead and leave. I can fight them off myself, which he's telling the truth. But if you actually do leave and jump out of the window and go down the fire escape, then suddenly, next thing you know, you're gonna be captured and he's dead. But if you stick around and you help him fight, then he'll just say, all right, I'm gonna be fine, I'll meet you here, just go to, you know, etc. place. And it's like, okay, you have that conversation with him just by choosing to fight the guards with him, and suddenly, guess what? He's alive for the rest of the game. He's got cutscenes and voice lines throughout later parts of the game. It's so sick. That stuff that they would never even remotely tell you that, or even you would never see that. And if it did happen today, then they would stop the entire gameplay flow and then tell you the 2 choices to choose from. So yeah, that's amazing. This shit blew my mind. You can hear it in my voice right now. It was so good. It was so good. I haven't witnessed anything like that aside from The Witcher 3 and fucking Fallout New Vegas. Those are the only 2 games I can say that gave you those type of just free choices that you can make during the game. But yeah, Deus Ex is an amazing game. It was made in 2000, and as far as its design philosophy, that still holds up. It suffers only slightly from, you know, the year 2000 of, let's say, controls and movement, but it's all reasonable, and most of it is intentional design. Because even down to your movement in certain areas and environments comes down to augmentations that you can choose on your character, which turns out to be like your build, and you choose the augs you want and you activate them whenever you want, or deactivate them when you want. Whereas for those who might have only played Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, the prequels from the PS3 era onward and the 360 era onward, those games had to simplify it because there were less buttons on a controller. So it turns out that you have way more augments on the prequels on that activate automatically, and the few that can't be activated as such would have to be like a hotkey on the D-pad and such. I love the idea that you choose the augments for so many specific situations. The fact that there's an entire augment just to disable rockets and explosives that come within a certain radius of your body. That's sick. Another augment that gives you, well, yeah, they had the visual augments in the prequels, but there was another one that was super good, which just when you activate it, it will slow your power consumption while using other augments. Like, bro, it's so scientifically unnecessary, but it's there because it makes scientific sense. It's like, we didn't ask for this, it didn't need to be here, but it's cool to have that, and that's something that you don't see that often. But yeah, let me stop running about Deus Ex, and we're gonna go ahead and lightning around this news. And the first thing on the docket is over on Kotaku, of all places. Neo: The World Ends With You leaks 10 days early via Square Enix store. So it turns out anybody who pre-ordered The World Ends With You on the Switch got a hold of the game 10 days early. And they got an email and a code for the game. And they're probably playing it right now, if they haven't already beaten it. But yeah, it's out there, and that's crazy, and I'm jealous. But 10 days ain't much. I just figured that's something pretty dope. If that were me, I would be surprised and happy as hell. It would feel like Christmas. So happy birthday to y'all out there. Anywho's, next on the docket, we're gonna talk about this damn Steam Deck. The Steam Deck has been revealed. It was released from, of course, Valve. Steam has, they put their hat in the ring, and we won't say it's the strongest punch to the industry in terms of the long run, maybe in how much you're willing to get out of this device, but I feel like it's mostly a luxury device more than anything else for right now, because there's a lot of hype, people saying things and that, speculating about it, but let's just get down into it. God damn, this might take a while. Alright, real quick, the specs goes like this. The CPU is an AMD Zen 2, not bad. It's a quad core with an 8-thread logical cores, and CPU clock speed 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz for boost. Now the GPU is AMD RDNA 2, not bad. Compute units 8. Clock speed is 1 to 1.6 gigahertz. The RAM, however, this is something that needs a little explaining, is 16 gigabytes LP DDR5 at 5500 mega transfers per second. Now, mega transfers is what's listed here on what I have, but a lot of people may not know about mega transfers. Usually, you would see memory when in terms of RAM, memory will be listed as in the memory speed or clock speed of the memory, I guess you could say. It's supposed to be the transfer speed, but it's listed as hertz, and usually it would be like 3600 megahertz, gigahertz, etc. But these are mega transfers per second. Now, mega transfers is the more accurate unit to measure the speed of RAM in transfers. I hope that made sense. Anyway, next, the storage. You have a choices between 3 models, either 64 gigabyte, 256 gigabyte, or 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD. The 64 gigabyte is eMMC, but the 256 and the 512 are NVMe SSDs, and those SSDs are said, the storage is said to be welded to the motherboard, so it is not expandable in that sense. You cannot switch them out. However, there's most likely going to be some type of media that you can insert to expand storage. I mean, it would only make sense. Given the people who make this and the purpose of the product, it should make sense. Anywho's, next on the screen is a 7-inch LCD touchscreen and a resolution of 1280 by 800. This is reasonable given the size of the product and the battery that it has to run off of. It is also a touchscreen, and the bigger the screen, the more the problem. Usually when it comes to these handhelds, you don't want them to be too heavy nor too bulky. This one is already slightly bigger than the Nintendo Switch, and I've heard of many of people complain about the Switch and its design being too big. I never really understood what the fuck kind of opinion that is, because it already looks kind of small. Like, small to me is the 3DS, small for me was the PSP Go. But anyways, the refresh rate of the screen is a heartbreaking 60 hertz, but it's reasonable. Okay, this is a battery operated portable. We can't be expecting 120 hertz or higher, 144 refresh rate from a handheld. Not like that, especially with as big as it is and the amount of computing that is meant to do. Now, stereo speakers, 3.5 millimeter audio jack, and dual microphones built in, USB Type-C Bluetooth, it's got everything that you would need in order to use other controllers. That means the PS5 DualSense, you have your Xbox controllers, Elite 360, as long as they're Bluetooth or USB compatible, it's all ready for it. All right, it's not bad. I'm not sure about the quality of the speakers, but they say it has stereo speakers, which means just 2, and we'll have to see how good they are in public or how loud they can be and how, you know, well balanced they may be. Connectivity has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, of course, we just said, USB Type-C with DisplayPort 1.4 support. That's pretty good. Battery is a 40 watt-hour battery, and the size is 11.7 inches by 4.6 by 1.8 inches. And they said it weighs about approximately 1.47 pounds. The prices for the 64 gigabyte model is $399, $530 for the 256 gigabyte and the 650 gigabyte. The 512 gigabyte rests at $650. So literally, I say it's not too bad, given that it's a portable, and it's more expensive than a PlayStation 5. It is the greatest size, I'd say. Well, the second and third. So the two biggest sizes of storage, being the 256 gig and 512 model, are both more expensive than a PlayStation 5, yet you can do way more with this machine. Let me just go ahead and make this known. You can, of course, it will be able to run Windows. It will be able to run all kinds of different software, homebrew, emulation, whatever have you that you choose to do with it, of course. That being said, the common person who buys Nintendo Switches is not going to jump out and get a Steam Deck. Why? Because the whole selling point of consoles is being able to play these games with ease of use and not having to know how to traverse the internet until you find the proper patch to make this emulator run properly on your device, or, you know, find out why there's some type of conflicts with Windows OS on this device, etc., or what driver snafu is causing the OS to do this stupid thing during your gameplay. Like, there's no telling what type of kinks have to be worked out once this thing drops. But I will tell you that most of the experiences that are on here will be novelty more than anything else, because when you're playing things on the go, it has to be engineered to be well made for playing on the go. I can't imagine somebody would be willing to play most PC multiplayer games on the go. I mean, why would I want to be on a handheld playing over Wi-Fi at Starbucks? That don't sound right. Alright? They don't even sound like a good time at all. And on top of all of that, you know what I mean? I would say that this thing would be the best emulation machine. I would get this specifically for that, and that's exactly what I would do for it. It would be like the Fire Sticks of video games. You feel me? And that's what I would use it for. Anyway, me personally. Now, moving on, I'll share more opinions about the Steam Deck, but honestly, I feel like it could be more of a hobbyist device and purchase rather than your average, usual consumer in game. Anywho's, let's hope that it does succeed, because they have developed it to have, after seeing other people getting sued for analog stick drift and Joy-Con drift, Valve has done everything they can to engineer their analog sticks to combat against that. So we'll have to see what they have to offer. And another thing real quick, over on PC Gamer, the same side as the previous three, we'll have the previous piece of news, is that the Steam Deck is also on eBay already, as it was announced 2-3 days ago. It's already on eBay for over $1,000. People are selling their pre-orders, and it's ridiculous. All right. Now, finally, KitGuru.net, PlayStation games may be coming to Netflix according to data mining. Somebody found out that there will be some suggestions of PlayStation games on Netflix in the future. A guy who did some data mining on the app named Steve Moser. We'll have to see what happens with that. Everything else is filibuster, and that's pretty much the gist of the article. It's all just speculation. Anyway, on the same site, KitGuru, Warner Brothers denies claims it is selling off NetherRealm or TT Studios. Now, or TT Games, excuse me. Warner Brothers was saying that they were getting ready to sell off this or whatever a few months back. If you heard, I think it was about a month ago or so. and we reported onto this, but apparently it was a rumor and they denied the claim. So either they were looking into doing so and chose not to, or they were not and it was just a rumor. Anywho's, we're just moving on. We just wanted to mention that so we can put that nail in that coffin, because I was looking out to see what could happen with that, but it turns out nothing real, and that's nice. Okay, following techpowerup.com says, following a relisting on PSN, Cyberpunk 2077 quickly finds itself the top seller and is back in full swing, and is still one of the best sold video games in the past 2 years. So it stumbled, it hit some snags, but it's still going strong. Can't get mad at that. But anyway, let me know what y'all think about all of this in the comments. Give me a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see some more. Don't forget to check this podcast out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Google Podcasts, on all of your major streaming platforms. All right, y'all take it easy. We finna get up out of here. And don't forget the channel motto: intentions are the most important. The actions ain't nothing but loud, and words don't mean a damn thing. Go ahead and find the Twitch channel. We stream it almost every day, starting at like 8 a.m. Central. So be there. All right, we're gonna have a good time. Peace.
Have been disengaged. Please vacate the immediate area.
Damn, why you come in late with the good ass ideas, soul? Shit.
JC, no more infolinks. Transmissions of any kind. We'll start again. Live in villages. If you receive this, if you survive, then find us. Find us.
Helios! What's happening?
The safety interlocks for the power generator have been
Everything that should not happen. That's why we're doing it in a video game. What's happening, Midnight?
with the generator technology.
No!
Final safety warning. Nominal functional level will be exceeded in 3, 2, 1.
Yesterday we obeyed kings and bent our necks before emperors, but today we kneel only to truth. Khalil Gibran. Bro, that was the perfect mix of cinematic wonder and great jank.